Hi, good afternoon. I love the way we are breaking the silence today. I loved hearing everything that people had to say in the morning. I love seeing all the images. We're seeing so many new faces. They're all part of this great, big, beautiful country, the diversity. I want to bring another image to you, another face that we probably don't see too often on your TV screens, read about in the papers, or even pass when you're walking down the streets. This is Jija. She has cerebral palsy. And I'm here today to talk about disabled women, talk about their sexuality. I want all of you to think about her, try putting yourselves in her shoes. Think about what her personal and intimate lives should look like. And and think about your own lives. And I bet you start thinking about her life very differently. You see her life very differently because we are so conditioned to think what's normal, what's abnormal, what's possible, what's impossible. And I think we've got to break out of these binaries. We've got to start thinking beyond that because a lot of that stifles us, marginalizes people like Jija. And at CREA, a lot of our work has been really making that central to our mission.
यह दुनिया कैसी होगी यदि हर महिला के पास यह अधिकार हो कि वह अपने जीवन और शरीर के बारे में निर्णय ले सके और कह सके हाँ या ना।
Women's bodies are the battleground for competing political and ideological forces. We think sexuality is really at the frontier of women's rights. It's a huge area through which control is wielded over our lives. It's about all of us, every woman, how I see, who I see, whether I marry, how I spend my money. Can I be who I really am? Can I make choices? Do these choices mean that I face discrimination, stigma, inequality, violence?
मुझे हमेशा से ये बोला गया कि तुम हर चीज़ के लिए ना बोलो, लेकिन अब मैं हाँ बोलना चाहती हूँ। मैं जो करना चाहती हूँ उन सब चीज़ों के लिए हाँ बोलना चाहती हूँ। स्कूल जाने के लिए हाँ बोलना चाहती हूँ, बाहर घूमने के लिए हाँ बोलना चाहती हूँ, फुटबॉल खेलने के लिए हाँ बोलना चाहती हूँ। सब चीज़ों के लिए जो मेरे को खुश करती हैं उसके लिए हाँ बोलना चाहती हूँ।
Sounds almost like ending, but it's just the beginning. I do want us to start counting today. I want us to start counting by first thinking about something like the budget. A few weeks back, much excitement, non-stop media coverage. I don't know how many of you all even noticed that there were a lot of provisions for people with disabilities. I bet we noticed the tax breaks, the sort of write-offs on the home loans, etc. But you know, provisions for disabled people, I'm not sure if people in this audience can remember even one such provision, but there were many. Somebody obviously cared and they had put it in. Things like, providing more appliances, aids and appliances to blind people. There was talk about a National Institute for Design Studies. Profound. I mean, it's like we were too busy looking at the setting up of new IITs and IIMs. I bet today when we walked up the stairs, so many of us, not one of us, or most of us, probably didn't occur to us, what if somebody was in a wheelchair? How would they get into this space? It doesn't occur to us, but something like an Institute of Design Studies, I imagine, could make that change. And there was a lot more. But for somebody like me who works on sexuality, it wasn't enough. So you're now probably thinking, okay, now what more do these feminists want? I mean, they just seem to have a long list of wants around so many issues. But you know, the thing was that even as there was all this stuff for disabled people, there was no mention of disabled women. Women like Jija, whose lives are impacted very differently by their disabilities. And I think that's what we've been trying to talk about at CREA, trying to say what is it that we need to look at that goes beyond just the disability. We tend to often think about disability only in terms of impairment. We sort of interchangeably use those words. When we think disability, we immediately think impairment. They're two different words. Impairment, disability. Impairment is something that you could get out of an illness, a congenital condition that can affect your psychological or physiological condition. But disability, it's social. Disability is social. I think if there's that one takeaway you will take from my talk, I hope you'll start believing and understanding that disability is social. It's the barriers we create, we, not that person on the wheelchair, not that visually impaired person, but us, and the way we view disabled people with impairments, and we cause that disability because these are these negative environmental barriers that are preventing them from climbing up those stairs, from being able to see that film. If there's somebody visually impaired in the audience, if somebody is hearing impaired, they probably can't hear me, even what I'm saying. There is no sign language translation, there's nothing. So in other words, that's sort of that distinction we need to make. And once we make that distinction and we understand that disability is social, it's not medical, it's not about fixing that person on the wheelchair by rehabbing, by taking them through medical interventions, by treatment, we start to see of them as people. And then you start thinking about our disabled woman. She's no longer just a woman with an impairment. She is a sexual being. She is a woman just like any one of us. Any one of us who want to have a personal life, an intimate life, and yet does not have it because she's just been seen through the lens of her impairment. So at CREA, and partnering with this fabulous media organization in Bombay called Point of View, we created, it's already up there, we created this online resource website called sexualityanddisability.org. It's explicit, you can see it, you know, the images. But we really did want to shake people up. We didn't want, we wanted people to be able to look at disabled people and start thinking of them as sexual beings. We put information there about their bodies, about the mechanics of having sex, about their worries, about having an intimate relationship, about the fear of abuse, and all of that is there. Some of it, some of you might think is inappropriate, some of you might think is cool, but the fact is we put it all out there. It's disability accessible. It was created with disabled people. It was launched a couple of years ago. It now has over 150,000 users and over 260,000 page views. So obviously it's something people want to know about. It's a resource, it's a tool, partly out of curiosity, partly because people do need that information. All of us need that information. And I think one of the things I think that for all of us who work on sexuality, and you know, nowhere more is it starkly today, I think probably resonates as it does in this city and what it's gone through in the last several weeks. And this sort of understanding that unless we start talking about sexuality, unless we start teaching our children, a lot of the issues that we're going to be confronted with cannot be addressed. So just brushing them under the carpet is just not going to be able to help us. We face a lot of stigma. I think that's the other thing I want to say. I think we don't see that many organizations in India that work on sexuality because it as a topic is very stigmatized. People immediately label it as something obscene, something to create some moral panic, because there is this sort of a very different understanding of what sexuality is. But I think we've got to break some of that, because unless we do that, we're not going to be able to go out there and start talking about some of these issues. We did this study, which was one of the first studies that looked at marginalized women, women with disabilities, lesbian women, sex workers. You know, data on looking at violence against them. Believe it or not, we've talked about violence so much. We read about it everywhere. We have a lot of research, but nobody had ever looked at the kind of violence these communities face. So it's always like women in general, as a homogeneous group, we all talk about women, women's rights. But I think for us at CREA, it's also been about the margins, about those we can't see every day, we don't talk about every day, we will not pass on the streets. We really want to make them visible, and we want that in a society, and I think in a country as diverse as India, and all morning we've heard about so many interesting things, so many different people, so many ideas. And we all believe, I think we fundamentally believe we're a diverse country. But we can't be a diverse country where it's all about people just like us. It has to be about people, those others out there, the disabled women, the sex workers, the lesbians. That's what a true inclusive society has to be about. So, I hope at the end of this, there is a sense in this room that, this is something that you need to know more about. I've just touched the tip of an iceberg. I do hope you'll go to our website, take a look at the information that's out there. There is a brilliant film that's been recently directed by this girl called Shweta Ghosh. Her father is disabled. She's from the Film Institute. It's called Access. She recently received a special mention in the 61st National Film Awards. I urge you to go and see the film. The film is about the lives of 4 disabled women and looking and talking to them and their narrative about beauty and sexuality, outer beauty versus inner beauty. What's the body? What does it mean? What does disability mean? It's a lovely film. I would say go there, read it. Go to our website, go to the online resource. Once you go past that first image of sex positions on a wheelchair, which might amuse you, offend you, I urge you, keep reading. And I hope it sparks your interest. If there's something you think you want to do, we're just a mail away, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience.